Hi everyone, I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You, and I'm your host of the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Here's where we talk about the connection between creativity and healing by interviewing amazing creatives, spectacular healers, and inspiring people who have used creativity in their healing. What does it mean to be creative? What is creativity? You don't have to write a best-selling book or paint a masterpiece or even play in a rock band. Creativity is in everything that we do, in the ways we think, in the way we run a business. In our everyday lives, we are creative all the time. Let's talk about how we are creative and how creativity helps us heal mentally, physically, and emotionally, right now on the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Hi everyone, I'm Larissa Russell of Creative You. Welcome to the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Today I have with me Christine Karpiak. Christine was one of our presenters for the Loving, Healing, Creating Summit that we ran February 2nd through 14th, and we absolutely loved having her. You can still get access to that summit at www.creativeyou.ca. So Christine is a mixed media artist and teacher who seeks wholeness through creative discoveries and expression. Whether Christine performs, gardens, paints, photographs, or makes a general mess in her studio, the need to breathe creativity into her life is how she survives life's hardships and elations. After having finished her master's, Christine was faced with long-term grief from suddenly having lost her sister after tragically losing her mother only a few years prior, and turned to her art for therapy. She explored a world not only of art and its opportunity to practice new techniques, but she discovered how healing the process of creating art was to the soul. Christine became an expressionist, an explorer, and a storyteller, and felt compelled to inspire and to help others who may need guidance expressing their own thoughts and emotions. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Can you share some of your story and your path that's brought you here?
Oh, sure. Well, I've always been the creative type, my whole life, doing all sorts of different crazy things. But then it all sort of amalgamated with the visual arts kind of taking precedence. And it was when I did my master's. I finished in 2016, and it was heavily arts based. So I got super excited about that. And it was right about the time I was getting interested in mixed media. So I really started playing with that and exploring, and it just opened this world to me. And then, as you said, with the losses, I actually just found that having quiet time in my studio to art journal was hugely therapeutic. And so that's just kind of where it started. And it just kept snowballing into bigger and bigger things from there.
Yeah, it's so true that, we were having a small discussion before we started here, just the healing aspect of creativity and how important it is. So it's great that you found it that way.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. It's like everything in my life kind of aligned at the same time when I needed it, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think about this path a lot because I think, well, if I hadn't met this friend, and if I hadn't lived here, and if I hadn't, all these things came together that introduced me to these things. And if I hadn't seen that ad on that particular magazine that my particular friend bought me, do you know what I mean? And it's just like, wow, someone was really looking out for me. It feels, because it just was like right at the right time when I really, really needed it and still need it.
Yeah. And it's so true that when you are ready for something, that just appears for you, right? So that's really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what does healing with creativity mean to you?
Well, I sort of look at that two ways. I think one way could be, if you are a creative person, to use your talents and your insights to helping you muddle through life, in whatever way that is for you, whether it's, performing or art or whatever. But also, like, I'm learning there's this living a creative life thing. So it's not just using your creativity to satisfy your needs, but seeking this creative life. Like, lives are super, super busy. And so having those little mindful moments to stop and notice little things, like it could be It's just basically practicing mindfulness, in my opinion. It's like, holding your cup of tea and feeling the warmth around your hands, or stopping and just noticing the delicateness of the flower, or noticing the sunrise or set, those kind of things, and taking inspiration from that in your life, and finding beauty in those little moments and injecting that into your soul. And like, for me, those are the moments that carry me through. And so I think that's just looking at life in a different way. And maybe some people don't think that's creative, but I think maybe it is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's so important, especially I always say creativity isn't everything we do, and all creativity is healing. So really, the more we pay attention to it, the more we pay attention to what we're doing and creating, the more healing it is for us.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm there myself, actually, because it's something that you have to practice, I think. Um, just bringing that to the forefront, and noticing these things. And suddenly, I don't know, I can't explain it, but the load lightens for those few moments, and you just find yourself looking at things in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good for the mindset. It's good for stress relief, and to build your creativity, and you're doing it daily. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think there's a driving force that inspires you?
Well, it's like this. If I don't do it, I will implode. Like, when it's in you to do, you just have to do it. Like people say, it's like breathing. I have to breathe. I have to do art, and that's how it is for me. And there's just these endorphins that come out, when you're creating, and it just satisfies the soul. So the monster is in there and it needs to come out. That's what drives me.
I totally agree with that, because I know that in some of my lowest times when I haven't created, it just gets so much worse. And then when I start to create again, just everything starts to flow better and easier.
Isn't that right?
Yeah,
And then you say, well, I'm too busy. I can't make time for it now. But that's the time when you actually probably need it the most.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah. Get a little bit of that time and the crankiness disappears.
Exactly. And you touched on a little bit about, your mother had passed away and then your sister. And has that past pain or another informed your life purpose?
Oh, very much. Like, if anyone has experienced that kind of grief, um, they will know, like, it absolutely pulls the rug out from under you, and changes your life. You end up, once you kind of come out the other side, or throughout the journey anyway, you end up looking at life through a different lens. I can't explain it, but something happens to you, and you just realize how precious life is. And if you have things to do, you better do them. And so for me, it informs everything I do. I don't want this to sound too weird and stuff, but like, I feel like I get strength from my girls, and I feel like I can push myself pretty hard, because in my head, maybe I'm doing it for them, or because of them, or with them. I mean, that sounds really like out there, but it, they're, the strength I have found to like live life and do all these things in my life is because of them, really, and their loss. And you just look at it a different way and say, I'm doing this now. I've wanted to do these things. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You just never know, how much time you have. So it makes perfect sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you take it for granted, right? But when it never happens to you, like, life is going along, everything's fine. But when something actually does happen to you, you don't know what's going to happen, but there are positive things that did come out of it for me personally. So I'm lucky in that way. Like, for instance, I went and got my master's.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of that. Very proud of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. I've had a number of losses in my life.
Mm.
And it's so true how it changes who you are, and everything that you go through makes you who you are. So as
Yeah.
horrible as it may have been in the moment, and can still feel somewhat, you wouldn't be who you are today without those losses, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's an excellent point. You nailed it. Absolutely.
yeah.
For sure. It makes you stronger, and in my case, I can't speak for everyone, better probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on what you do with it, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Depends on what you do with it. I just sort of, again, for me, I was lucky. I had these opportunities at the right time, and I seized the day and went for it. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's excellent. And what would you say is your favorite creative healing modality for yourself?
For me, it's absolutely art journaling. Like I do painting, collage, I do a lot of different things, but I think it's really the art journaling because that's a private place. No one has to see it. And as you're going along and you're creating these layers, these emotional layers are being worked through too. And is this thought process, and you're feeling one way and you sort of go through this, whatever the emotion may be, and finally when you're finished the page, you come out on the other side feeling A, better, and B, different, and C, maybe even things have been resolved for you,
Yeah.
at least at that moment. So I think it is extremely powerful, and not only because of the art, but there's words and there's journaling and there's purpose in that, and that's huge. Like there can be poetry, there can just, looking through magazines and finding words that are jumping out at you, resonating with you at that very moment. So I absolutely encourage everyone to have a go if they've never tried it before. Very powerful for
Yes,
me.
I absolutely agree. And what would you say is your greatest accomplishment to date?
That's a hard question. Um, well, my son is 18. That's an accomplishment. But I really think, it's me doing the master's because I was having a family at the time. And then now, I'm in this new phase that I'm super excited about, that I'm going to be doing some online teaching on Wanderlust, and I'm in the summit, and I'm being published in magazines and stuff like that. So I'm really proud of myself for that too. Like this
Mhm.
world is opening, and it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. When you touched on your son being 18 and raising him, it was so true when my girls finally were done high school, and it's like I got them through high school, they graduated, weren't pregnant, they weren't on drugs. It's
Exactly.
a win. It's a win.
I did. I'm a good mom.
It can't be that bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the next phase. Yeah. Then what? Right. But yeah,
Yes.
that's a whole other story. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you become a grandma. And it's the best job ever. So
Oh, are you a grandma?
I am a grandma
What?
of
You look
4.
far too young to be a grandma. Well, congratulations. How exciting is that?
I just look young.
Oh, well, you do. I have no idea how old you are, but yes, you do.
Yeah. I just was 52 this year. So yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
So
Wow, that's wonderful.
yeah. So being a grandma, I'll just say is one of the best things ever. So yeah. Way better than being a parent, let me tell you.
Yeah, because you can be the fun person and you still get all the things because you miss your kids because they're not little anymore, but then you get to ship them all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you could change one aspect of our society through your work, what would it be?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I mean, that really is a good question. I was thinking about that. I don't know. I think like a lot of kids grow up not really feeling free to express themselves. And I think I don't I just think and I think the world is going this way, this freedom of expression to just be really truly who you are, how you were born. Because, you know, I mean, for us growing up, we just wanted to conform. But it wasn't really maybe truly who we were, but we didn't want to be the castaways and the weird ones and stuff like that. So that wasn't good. You just need to be who you are. And that's for my art, that's just, I am who I am, and no one is judging me. And I think if people can just be really free to express themselves in the way that they need to without anyone criticizing them, then maybe that would be it. I know that's not super profound, but that's how I can relate it to my art.
No, and I think it is very profound, because we really are stifled in so many ways. And I mean, art is just one of them. So many artists that I talk to didn't create for years and years because, you know, an art teacher said they weren't any good, or a parent said it was worthless, or, you know.
How many times have you heard that story, right? What a horrible story.
Yeah. And
art is so
over again.
Wow, it's so sad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really important. And if we can get people to, you know, be themselves and create while doing that, and create what feels good to them, then that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And just be true to who you are, you know?
Yeah,
Express
absolutely.
yourself in the way that you need to. And like I say, I think the world is going that direction. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think more and more, even though in the media we might hear all the negatives, I think the undercurrent is actually very positive. And so I really do see it going that way.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming along. Society is coming along in some ways, you know.
Yeah. In some ways.
If you don't watch the news, you know.
I try not to.
Just stay in your own little bubble.
So what inspirational advice would you give to someone who is struggling?
Just, you mean struggling in general in life?
Yeah, in life or in any way. Yeah.
I would say, you know, number one, find someone to talk to. And number two, find self-compassion. I was reading this book by Rick Hansen called Just One Thing. And one of the things he talks about in there is self-compassion, which isn't the same thing as self-pity. It's, you know, saying to yourself, or as it would be like saying to your friend, if your friend wasn't hurting or having a difficult time, what would you say to your friend or a family member? You'd say kind and caring, compassionate things.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're encouraged now when you're going through a tough time to be kind and self-compassionate towards yourself, and say those things to yourself as if, you know, you were saying them to a friend or a family member. And so those are two things. And I think just be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself, and know it's okay to go through these things, and there's help out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And you're not alone. Like, you are not alone. There are people going through the same thing. It's just a matter of, you know, connecting with people and finding help, and just being patient and kind to yourself. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because it so resonates with me, because I actually am the founder of a nonprofit, and we help LGBTQ plus youth just find a place in the world, knowing that they're not alone. And we do a podcast and things for just for information for a lot of the youth that are out, you know, in smaller communities, or even in the city, that just don't know that they have people like them, and they know that people are there for them. So just say that, it's just like, oh, that so resonates with me.
Oh, that's so great. See, this is what I love about this global world now with, you know, internet and things, and society moving forward, is there are people like you providing these supports. Like, I'm getting goosebumps. That's just so lovely.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's so true, because we can reach more people and further, and, you know, we can only do so much in our own neighborhood, and that's still important, but, you know, the more we can reach out and let people know that they're not alone, it's just so important. Yeah.
Oh, it's really important, because it can sure be a lonely world.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're going through tough times, you feel like you're the only one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, to know there is a community out there for you. Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, do you have an inspirational quote that sums up your life journey?
Well, I have this quote by Mary Oliver, and it sort of inspired me to write my own, but I'll read her quote first. It says, "Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who made the morning and spread it over the fields. Watch now how I start the day with happiness, in kindness." And I really like that quote because it just made me think, okay, each day is a new day. We're going to start this day. We're going to start it with positivity, like, no matter what's going on in your life. And then I wrote this. I wrote, "Choose sunshine, even in the smallest moments of the day. Be still. Feel the change. Invite the warmth. Wrap yourself in light."
Oh, yeah. I love
I
that.
don't know. Her quote inspired me just to try and have a positive outlook every day.
Mm-hmm.
Let the sun come in, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's so true. And the more we can sort of be our true authentic self, the easier that becomes, I think, right? And so being able to show who we are and finding our, tribe, or not tribe. I've been asked not to use that word, and I understand it. Our people, the people that are, like us and think like
yeah,
us. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. And so is there anything else you'd like to add, or that maybe we didn't discuss today that you'd like our listeners to know?
No, I can't really think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
we've
good too.
we've had a good discussion just about life and creativity, and more so than just art. And I think you're right, though. Creativity is in all of us. It's in everything we do, or it can be in everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really what keeps people going. Really, at the heart of everything, it keeps people going.
Yeah.
Gives people hope.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And
you so much. Oh, sorry.
yeah, nope, that's fine. To our listeners, we will see you again next week. And in the meantime, I wish for you amazingly creative days. Have a great week. Thank you for listening in. Please remember to like, share, subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. You can find us at www.creativeu.ca. That's www.creative and the letter U.ca, because we're in Canada reaching out to the whole world. See you next time on the Creative Soul Healing Podcast.